I haven't had a DM, but I did see someone say on there, like, oh yeah, Camille is so fine. If it doesn't work out, put me on Married at Second Sight. I was like, oh no.
I definitely
Thomas,
have.
did you check on that? I got my eye on you.
Am I the only one who's confused about the part 2? Personally, I don't understand why we needed to have a part 2, because at the end of the day, nothing new was said or nothing new happened outside of the fact that Brandon showed off again, because I don't quite understand whether he's being genuine or whether he's doing this so that he's featured on this TV show that he wasn't able to be cast on, because what he's saying doesn't make sense. The fact that he asked Pastor Carl to marry him and doesn't make sense. For him to be giddy that Ikechi refused to shake his hand does not make sense. For Ikechi to storm off doesn't make sense. And for David to refuse to give a timeline of his relationship with Madison still doesn't make sense. And so I don't get why we needed this episode. It was just a filler. There was nothing necessary for us to watch. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 18, Episode 20. So it's a continuation of the David and Michelle situation, in the sense that we're asking questions. When did you first initiate physical intimacy? They spoke about the text message again and said that this is not someone who's flirting with someone and wanting to get to know them or wanting to explore a connection. David, I think with Madison, they've sort of reached a place whereby they've agreed that there are certain things we're going to own up to and there are certain things we're not. And I feel like the reason why is because they don't want Madison to have to face the backlash from the viewers. And this is why they've decided to stick to whatever they're saying. I have a feeling, yes, they met on the honeymoon when all the couples met. And I think working out, that's when it started. On the honeymoon, there was this sort of instant spark, but they tried to fight it. And then eventually there was flirting. David spoke about the fact that, he and Madison went out with his friend, with her cousin. He stayed out with her, and it seems he went out with her one more time. But he's saying nothing really started until week 5. And it's like, I don't buy it. I think at this point, there's no point in lying, because people are going to continue to believe what they want to believe. I'm happy that Kevin was able to make Michelle understand that she's not the victim, because Michelle has wanted to play this victim card for forever. And so for her to continue to say, she was lied to, I'm happy that she's reminded that, yes, you were lied to, but at the same time, you were not interested in this man. So it's not like, you really liked this man, you had strong feelings for him, and then he let you down. No, you didn't like this man. You were looking for an excuse as to say no. And when you found out about the text message, this sort of gave you validation and sort of gave you a reason as to why you didn't want anything to do with him. For Michelle to say, oh, I always suspected him, I always this. No, her initial concern was the fact that he lived at home with his parents, and she didn't think he had enough financial security to sort of give her the lifestyle that she needed or the lifestyle she felt she deserved. For him to be asked, so what's next with you and Madison? He said, I'm going to give her the world. I'm going to open the doors. I'm going to provide for her financially. She doesn't need to pay for anything when we go out. We've bought an investment property. And you can see that Michelle is sort of, the light is sort of going on that actually, which might have judged this man wrongly, in the sense that she might have underestimated him, and now somebody else has come in who values and appreciates him for who he is and is willing to accept him for the man that he presents himself to be, which is really sad though, They try to bring in age to say maybe because Madison is younger, that's why she has more patience with David. I don't think so. I think it's just people that connected on a different level. Michelle was never into David from the start. He didn't meet the criteria that she wanted, and she lacked the flexibility to sort of change anything or accept anything. They spoke about, will you be cordial when you go out? Will you meet up? Will you be friends? David was like, whenever we go out, don't feel like you have to sort of not attend because I'm there. I'm happy to be in the same space with you. I'm happy to talk to you. And she said, well, we'll never be friends. Michelle's ego, this is what I think. Michelle's ego is bruised because Michelle wanted to be the one who put David in the situation that he put her in. So the idea that David got what he came into the experiment for and she didn't get anything is the reason why there's been this uproar with her crying and screaming and shouting and saying he lied to me. had she found somebody, or had Alan been interested in her the same way that David was interested in Madison, we wouldn't have all this uproar. But because she didn't find her person, this is why she's kicking off. Is Karla and Juan. Karla and Juan are something that is confusing to everyone, I think, including themselves. The reason why they didn't work, I didn't quite get it. I think it started off with the pettiness on the honeymoon when Juan said he forgot about Karla, and then Karla allowed him to forget his clothes, and he had his clothes in a little sort of carrier bag all over the resort. And I think it just got worse as they left the honeymoon and went back to the apartments. Because on their wedding day, they seemed to really like one another. Yes, there was the issue with the dad saying he wants a prenup, but I think they really liked one another. And then that pettiness just sort of drew them apart. And we never quite understood why they could never make it work. And I don't think the experts were able to pick up on the fact that they were struggling. And this is why they got to decision day, and everybody was shocked that why are they saying no? I think they would have been good for one another. I think, as Karla mentioned, she said, she needs to stop treating people like she knows them, because this is one of her flaws, in the sense that every time she sees someone, she treats them as though she's met them before. And I think because she was away with the fairies and was in this idealistic place, Juan couldn't see the seriousness of it. So Karla is taking that away with her, and she's going to be more serious in her next relationships, because she wants people to take her seriously. Yes, she wants people to accept her for who she is, but at times who she is can be a bit too much. They spoke about the fact that Juan is dating somebody else. He seems very happy. He says she's Brazilian and she's very caring, loving, compassionate, and all the nice things. Karla, on her part, says, she's just seeing people, but it's not serious. And so I'm really sad that they didn't work as a couple. I feel like they had the right sort of tools, or they were the right match for each other, because they could compromise, they could understand, they could empathize with one another. It's sad that, Juan had these ideas of what he sees in a relationship. But had Karla also embraced being with Juan, I think that would have helped her quite a lot. You do see a bit of regret on Juan's face. I don't know whether it's just me, but I could see a bit of regret. I think in him, he knows that maybe he was a bit too harsh with Karla. They spoke about the tantrum session with the lady. That was Orcs galore. It was very embarrassing, the way she was dressed and everything. So I'm surprised that they actually sat through that. And Juan said, he's sort of taken time out to self-reflect and sort of try and connect with nature, because he felt like, everything was all over the place. I don't know what to say about Juan and Karla, except, yes, Juan is dating somebody else, but I feel sorry for them, because they sort of lost something that would have been amazing for them. I think they're another couple that were a perfect match. I appreciate the fact that they went through the whole process and didn't disrespect one another, didn't cheat on one another, weren't cruel to one another. So hopefully they'll be happy in their next relationship. Juan says he's there for Karla anytime she needs him, and hope she is there for him. Yeah, I think they'll be great friends. Because there's nothing that happened outside of the fact that Juan forgot her on their honeymoon that would make them sort of feel some type of way about the other. So you had all 5 of the guys come out, and it seems everybody is dating by Ikechi. Anyone surprised? No. We would be lying by saying yes, we are surprised. No one should be surprised because of the man that he is. The guys are asked, what sort of woman do you think Ikechi is looking for? And I don't think anyone can actually pinpoint what Ikechi is looking for in a partner, because Ikechi himself, I don't think, knows what he's looking for in a partner. I think he's just confused.com and is just going with the wind and hoping that he will catch someone. Who she is, only he knows. Apparently, he's been enjoying himself being single, and he really loves that for himself. I think Ikechi might have to have a come to Jesus moment and understand that maybe finding a partner is not in the cards for him, and it's okay for him. He can continue on his own. He can continue sort of to build his life on his own, but I don't think there is someone, or he knows exactly what he's looking for in a partner. The guys were asked, who's the best for advice. The majority said Thomas, and then Thomas said Juan. And who's best dressed? They said Ikechi, and then some said Thomas, because Thomas has had an upgrade. So I think he's now in the books. Who will get married next? Everyone said David and Madison, because it seems David and Madison are really serious about one another, and so they found their person through through this process, did they find them the right way? No, they didn't. But at the end of the day, they found their person. So we always root for love. This is not something that should be encouraged on Married at First Sight, because people should be content with whoever they are matched with. So I hope, if nothing else, everybody else sort of understands that this was a one-off. This is not something that should be encouraged in the experiment. And so it is good to see the guys getting along. They're asked, will you be attending each other's weddings? They said, yes, we hope to continue to meet up and sort of be each other's support system. But at the same time, David and Madison, it seems, Alan is not going to go there. He's not going to try and fake a friendship with them. He's not going to try and he can be cordial, but he's not going to lie and say, oh, things are happy-go-lucky and we're in a very good space. So he told David that you and Madison are amazing people, but when it comes to sort of attending weddings and stuff, I want you to know that I wouldn't be looking forward to coming to your wedding. And which sort of implies that they are not invited to his, which is okay. He is still hurt. He is upset because he was building a marriage with someone and he was also building a friendship with someone, and sadly both didn't pan out. So you have the experts come out, Dr. Pepper, Pastor Carl, and Dr. Pia. Dr. Pia is pregnant. She says it was a surprise pregnancy. She's excited. And so they come out and they say, we are very disheartened by a couple of things that have happened, but there is nothing that we could have done to control it, because at the end of the day, we might have a checklist of the qualities that you want, but we can never predict a spark. We can never predict that these two people will have an instant spark and these two people won't. So first out is Michelle and Alan, because I think they wanted to get that out of the way, because that's one of these most sensitive situations. And the experts are sort of saying, we're really sorry you went through this. This was never our intention for you to go through this, but this is something that was beyond our control. So they apologized for that. They really had a lot of praise for Alan. They heaped praise on Alan, because even Pastor Carl was saying, you're an amazing guy. You will get your person who will appreciate you for the person that you are, and you will be able to pour into that person because this is who you are. You're looking for someone to love and someone you can pour everything into, and we hope you will find that person. And for Michelle, they spoke to her about the lie, and the text message and everything. But you could tell that the experts are not, as empathetic with Michelle as they are with Alan, which tells you that maybe there's more to the Michelle story than we were told. And maybe there's some level of truth to what David was saying when he said, Michelle said, I don't care, but because we're on a reality TV dating show, I'm going to try and drag you through the mud because of this issue. For Michelle to be asked, do you have any questions for the experts? And for her to turn around and say, oh, did you have any idea that, Madison and, David were seeing each other? Oh, do you have any idea of... And it's like all her questions had to do with Madison and David. And it's like, this is not the time. It's a year later. Focus on yourself. Ask the questions that will help you become a better partner to the next person that you meet, instead of you focusing on a relationship that didn't work out, a relationship that you didn't even want in the first place. So Michelle, for me, the truth, in my opinion, is she never liked this man. She looked for an excuse, found an excuse, and is going to ride that to the very end. The experts didn't even say anything positive about her and her next relationship. I think for them, they know that, she's never going to change. She said, what she's learned is she's learned to sort of open up and be more vulnerable in situations. I think she might as well not have been there. They're not buying it. I'm not buying it as well. So you have the experts sit down with Ikechi and Ikechi is still trying to tear this woman down. I think he's very bitter. This is why I think Ikechi is bitter. I think he's bitter that she's in a new relationship. I think he's bitter that he lives in a better apartment than him. I think he's bitter that she's more successful than he is. And so for him to continue to say, she wasn't his person, she wasn't right for him, and this, that, and the other doesn't make sense to me, because at the end of the day, he didn't even stay there long enough to try and put any effort into this relationship. He said you wanted someone who was going to have his back, someone who was loyal, someone who was committed, and she called him my man, my man, my man from day one. So the idea that he wanted more than that, I don't get. You could see it on Dr. Pierce's face that she kept looking at him like, why are you lying? Why are you lying? And for to just be sat there quietly, I think she feels bad about the comment that she made when she had her decision day, the letter she wrote to him. And so I think she's trying to give him grace. But at the same time, this is not the person that you give grace to. This is someone who's going to continue to want to tear you down. I'm surprised that the experts didn't hold his feet to the fire and they didn't hold him accountable for the claims that he made about her sort of pushing herself on him. And now the show has ended and that's still there in the ether. I don't get it. Said, he wasn't ready for her. And he wasn't ready. He applied to be on TV. He didn't apply to be married. That's the impression that I got about this man. He applied to be on TV, but didn't apply to get married. And so the idea that he ended up with someone who was more committed than him is something he couldn't understand. And this is why he tried to break her down and make her look like the villain. They brought out Brandon. Brandon just wants to be on TV. That's the impression that I get. He wants to be on TV. He wants to be famous. His theatrics were a bit too much. The fact that he went to shake, because as soon as he came out, Ikechi walked out and went and sat with Madison and David. And then you had, Brandon say, I want to bet because I bet someone that he wouldn't be man enough to shake my hand. Okay, if that's what works for you, fine. You had, Brandon talk. Brandon was doing a lot of talking, a lot of unnecessary talking. Him being vocal about their physical intimacy doesn't make sense because actually Dr. Pierre had to say to him, are you aware that this is going to be shown on TV? And he said he doesn't care. He spoke about, having a miscarriage. I don't know why he did that because hadn't brought it up. So I don't know why he felt so comfortable to say it. He brought up the fact that he's got 2 children. And then he stood up and said to Pastor Carl, I want you to marry us. I fast forwarded through that. I don't even know what Pastor Carl said. I don't think Pastor Carl would have jumped at the idea of marrying her. All Pastor Carl said to was that we know you're a woman of substance. We know you've got a good head on your shoulders. So if you like this man, we love it for you. And that says a lot because they can all see that he's doing a bit too much. We don't know whether he's doing a bit too much because he wants to be on TV or whether he's doing too much because he really likes her that much. I think he's doing a bit too much to be on TV. And I think needs to protect her heart because if she thinks, Ikechi was bad for her, this man is actually going to be worse. The way he treats her and when he leaves her, it's going to lead to a lot of heartbreak. So I hope she protects her heart and she puts herself first and she makes sure that she's not, being blinded by the idea of love, because even Dr. Pepper said to her, this relationship was very quick. I don't know whether it's because you were emotionally broken or whether it's because you were ready for love, and we all will never know. You have the experts sit down with David and Madison, and they're sort of asking for a timeline, and David is refusing to give a timeline. I have a feeling these people developed feelings initially. I think there was an instant spark when they saw each other with their spouses after they were married, before they even went to their honeymoon. And then during the honeymoon, when they were working out and stuff, this is where they were feeling each other out. By the time they came back to the apartments, the spark was already growing. And so I think the idea that these 2 people are refusing to say anything tells me that they know that if they say anything, they're going to out each other out and they're going to sort of get a lot of backlash. So they've decided to protect their relationship. The experts were able to sort of get a timeline. I think the timeline proved that this started during the honeymoon because of the fact that David said, he was struggling. Yes, Madison said she saw him broken. The time we saw him broken was on the honeymoon when he slept outside. And so that makes me believe that's the time they started talking and started growing whatever they were growing. When they took the action or when they made the conscious decision to sort of pursue it, I think we will all never know. But I think this started way before, the honeymoon, when the couples initially met and the spark was there and they tried their best to sort of make things work with their partners. When they realized that their partners, it wasn't going to work out, this is when they went full force for each other. Because for Madison to introduce him to her cousin tells you that how serious she was about him. And even if they don't own up to it, it is what it is. The experts gave them good advice. They tried to tell them that just because your relationship started off through a cheating scandal doesn't mean you shouldn't trust each other. You need to meet each other where you are and you need to grow whatever you have. Do I think they'll be a successful couple? I think they will. I think as long as they continue to grow their trust, their compassion and empathy with one another, they will be fine. I'm surprised that we didn't get to see the experts sit down with Karla and Juan, or even with Thomas and Camille. I don't know whether it's because there's no drama between those 2. So you have everybody else come out, they sit down to have a conversation about the experience and how they feel. Obviously, everybody feels some type of way about Madison and David, how they got together. But now everybody's supporting them because they understand that nothing can be changed about it. And the people that they were in couples with have since moved on. Alan is in a new relationship with somebody else. So I guess it worked out for the better. They spoke about Luffy and how Luffy was a nightmare. And that was really cute because it lightened the mood. You were able to see Alan and Madison having an amazing time, having a great time just goofing about with Luffy. And Madison actually says having Luffy around actually helped with some of the awkward situations because he provided comedic relief, which I thought was cute. You had them talk about Juan and Karla, and Juan and Karla, for them, you know, they were very easygoing because Karla was all over the place. And Karla, I think, watching herself on TV is a moment of reflection and a teachable moment, as she said, because she was able to learn that she doesn't always present herself as someone who's serious, and people don't often take her seriously because of the way she behaves. You had Camille and Thomas and their basketball match and how Thomas really struggled with that. And so it was really cute that they had these sort of reflective moments on the journey to get to decision day. Everybody was asked for their sort of most amazing experience or moment. Camille talked about decision day. Thomas talked about when they were in trapeze, and Camille was very supportive. Everybody else had sort of highlights of when they had an amazing time. I didn't pick up on it because it doesn't make sense. You can tell there's no love lost between her and Ikechi because she said, the experience was a nightmare for her. She really had a challenging time, which is true though, because this man was a nightmare to her. Throughout the experience, he was a nightmare, and she struggled to sort of get him to participate or do anything or show her compassion and empathy. So I'm not surprised that she found somebody else. I think Brendan was a rebound, but that's just my opinion. He might prove me wrong. Hopefully he does change for the better because he's been doing a bit too much on camera. Hopefully he's not doing the same at home. I think it was a very sort of mixed bag season, but I'm happy that we had a successful season this time because it's been a while since we had a couple be successful. I think Karla and Juan could have been the second successful couple had they received the right tools they needed in order to sort of work through the issues they were having in their relationship. It's a pity they didn't bring them out to the experts in time, and this is why they are where they are. You can still see that, Juan, I think, has some sort of buyer's remorse in the sense that he realizes that maybe he made a mistake with Karla and Karla was going to be a good match for him. So it's sad that this is where they are, but hey, it is what it is. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 19. Bye guys.